Let it bug, let it bug, let it bug.
What's in it for the citizens? So what citizens get to do is, one of the things that I always didn't like about science education as a kid is you would do these exercises. And not that you don't get some learning from that, but the end point was already determined. And if you did the exercise right, if you put chemical A and B together, it's supposed to turn red. And if it doesn't turn red, then you did it wrong. You go out in nature, and if you look under this kind of a tree, you'll find this bug. And if you don't, you looked in the wrong place. So what I like is actually engaging people in science so that each person is out there contributing to this mass scientific experiment where we're trying to learn where these ladybugs are and why they're in the places that they're in. And so the idea that it's really democratization of science, or it's really empowering people to do science on their own. And again, it's what we talked about, that people can see that science isn't something that's only done by overpaid professors in the ivory tower. It's something that they can really do themselves in their own backyards. And that's what I like about citizen science.
Let it bug, let it bug, let it bug.
In terms of scientists and controversial topics, I think, in my mind, I think science has the role of science is to serve society and to make the world a better place to live in, and that can be done either through very applied science, where you're solving very specific problems, all the way to very basic science, where there's no specific application now, but there might be years down the road. So, but when it comes to a controversial topic, whether that's the impact of genetically modified crops, or it's does the introduction of foreign biocontrol agents cause the decline of native ones, or maybe do pesticides have an impact on native predators, I think it's important for us not to shy away from those topics. I mean, you could easily avoid any topic that's controversial, but I think as scientists we have a responsibility not to do that. And then once we take on those topics, I think we have to be very open to whatever we find. We have to do, so you find a controversial topic and you do your research, and then you're going to get certain results from that. You can't let your sort of preconception of what you think the answer should be color how you analyze or interpret those results. And that's not an easy thing to do, because we all bring these preconceptions to the table. So I think we have to be really open-minded, and you know, maybe we need to find out sometimes that we're, in fact, some of the most interesting times is when you find out you're completely wrong, and the science is telling you the 180 degrees from what you thought the answer was going to be. So you have to interpret it just without bias as much as you can, and then when you report your results, I think you have to be careful not to spin those. Again, so you find whatever results you do, you interpret those in an unbiased manner, and then you try to report those in a way that's as unbiased as possible. And so you're giving the public information on what you found, and you want it to be factual, but again, you're not trying to spin it so that it supports some theory or some belief that you have in the back of your head. I think scientists can absolutely not be neutral in the sense that you can have your own beliefs, and if you are convinced by the data that global warming is happening, say, just as an example, I don't really work on global warming, but say I think it's fine to play an advocate role. But I think when you're interpreting your own results, or maybe even putting together data of others, you have to be careful that you're a scientist first, and you're talking from what you believe is coming out of the data, not from what you think should be the answer. Oh, if they're convinced, so if a scientist is convinced, say, that there's an environmental problem because of what they've seen from their own data or from other data, I think you do have a responsibility to speak out and say, here's based on my scientific background, here's my interpretation of the results. And you know, maybe if you're not a policy person, you can't say, this is, I think we should do policy X, but at least you can say, here's where I think the science lies and comes down. I think we have a responsibility to society at large.